wants to get united. Like, what we gotta do is meet everybody on 149th Street at the bench.
Today we got ourselves a really interesting video. I want to talk to you guys all about toys. What are they? How to kind of stop being a toy, as well as how do people treat toys, and what kind of ethics surround that topic. And at the very end of the video, I want to talk to you guys about the best information you're going to be getting about hand styles and the fundamentals of graffiti anywhere. So you just started off in graffiti, you suck, like you are not good, you're kind of uncertain about your hand style, you don't even have a throwy yet, and everyone thinks you're a toy. Well, what exactly is a toy? Now this is a bit of a divisive topic in the graffiti community because some people believe it to be somebody who is unskilled. They have a bad hand style, bad throwy, so on and so forth. While others believe it's somebody who isn't well versed in graffiti knowledge-wise. Whether it's the fact that they may not know the ropes, they don't know the history, while another segment of people believe that it's somebody who has no respect in graffiti, somebody who doesn't really treat their fellow graffiti artists with a certain level of kindness. But you see, being a toy is not any one of these things specifically. It's all of those coming together in order to create that label of toy. And understand, because being a toy is all of these combined, some graffiti artists might lack in one area but be able to compensate in a different area. Think back to the Star Wars film. What did everybody say about Cap? Everybody in that film was calling Cap a toy. Why? Not because his throwy was actually whack. Sure, they may have insulted his work just because they were upset about what he was doing, but factually speaking, fundamentally speaking, his work was good. So he wasn't toy skill level wise. He was toy because he was disrespecting the ethics and the unspoken rules of graffiti. That's why people didn't like him. And at the time, when he very first started doing this, he wasn't considered a legend just yet, so he didn't have that legacy in order to compensate for what he was doing. Back then, people definitely considered him a toy, if they weren't friends with him. On the flip side of this, you had some people who just started up doing graffiti, even back then, and they weren't good. They had no skill to speak of. Their hand styles were garbage, their pieces were garbage, they may not have even had a throwy, and if they did, that probably wasn't all that good either. But yet, nobody really called them a toy. And we have to ask ourselves, why is this? Well, the answer is because they respected the people around them, and they were learning the ropes and they respected the code. They respected the ethics graffiti has. As a result, that kind of reputation that they began building for themselves compensated for their lack of skill. So nobody called them a toy. This is just an example of having some qualities and then not having other qualities, and how this can affect your reputation within the graffiti community. It's actually the same logic of thinking that we're able to look at old school legends who do not know the fundamentals and still refer to them as legends because of their reputation, the work they put in, what they contributed to the game, and how they are with their fellow graffiti artists. It's also the same line of thinking that a lot of people consider Cope to be a toy, despite the fact that he factually is not a toy skill level wise. But some of the stuff that he's known to have done in the past might have soured his reputation. So how do you stop being a toy? First and foremost, graffiti always had respect at the center of everything. While sure, yes, it is of the graffiti mentality in order to hit what you want, where you want, when you want, however you might want to, having respect for your fellow graffiti artists goes a long way. And if your mission is to stop being a toy, this should really be something you hold true to yourself. So you're definitely going to want to respect the other graffiti artists within your community. Within reason, obviously, because there are some times where you might have to go ahead and put your foot down, but in general, you want to show respect. Other than that, you're going to want to keep it, well, how many times do I say these in videos? You gotta keep it simple, practice the basics in order to get better. I mean, there's no clean-cut way to go in to say that other than keep it simple, practice the basics. If you want to increase your skill levels so that you're not toy skill level wise, well then that's pretty much your only option. And lastly, learn your history as best you can. Unfortunately, the history of graffiti is not well documented at all whatsoever, and you have a lot of old school graffiti artists who like to straight up just kind of exaggerate or blatantly lie about past events to make themselves and their friends seem a lot more important than what they actually were. I'll actually give you guys a story. I was mentored by Demmer. Phenomenal guy, love Demmer. And me and my partner were chilling at the shop, and my partner ended up meeting an old school New York graffiti artist from way back in the day. And this guy would have you believe that he was quite literally the person who made graffiti. Like he would exaggerate every single story to make himself look as impressive as possible. And I remember Demmer, he would tell me on the sidelines, he'd be like, this guy's an idiot. This guy is ridiculous. Like, nobody knows who he is. And unfortunately, this is very common. If a graffiti artist can get away with lying about his reputation in the old old school New York time, he's more than likely gonna do it. Hate to break it to you. And for that reason, a lot of books, a lot of videos, a lot of interviews are full of crap. I mean, half the graffiti movies you guys have watched, they're unfortunately full of crap, the majority of them. This also makes it really hard in order to learn the names of legends, especially legends that aren't like super known across the globe. So because of this, inevitably you're gonna have some graffiti artists that end up taking up the name of a legend, not realizing that it's the name of a legend, and you can't really blame them half the time because how are they supposed to know? Could just as be the case where they talk to somebody and they claim to be a legend from, you know, New York back in the 70s when they aren't, and maybe they were just lying. Kind of like my partner's other mentor. Or it might be the case that they have a legend's name and they just never figure it out because, well, graffiti wasn't well documented. But this goes back to the respect point, right? If you find out that you do in fact have the name of a legend, then, well, out of respect, you have to change your name. And I'll tell you what, that respect goes a long way because, I mean, another story if you guys are down for it, but I remember my mentor put me down in his crew, RSH, which was a really well-known crew. The crew was no joke, and I was stoked to be in the crew, right? I was ecstatic about it. But here's the thing, I didn't deserve to be in the crew at all. At the time in which I was put down in the crew, I was a complete and total toy. I didn't know what I was doing. I was a toy skill level wise, and sure, I had respect for people, generally speaking, and sure, I knew the ropes and I understood the history of graffiti, so on and so forth. That's all I had going for me. That was compensating for me because, well, other people who saw my mentor and then saw me in the same crew, they knew, they understood. I only got into the crew because he was mentoring me. But here's the thing, if I was disrespectful, if I stepped out of line, everybody would have called me out, my mentor included. When you have respect for your fellow graffiti artists, it almost helps keep you on the right path because they'll correct you when you step out of line. But if you go into this with the idea that nobody could ever tell you anything and, you know, you're better than everybody, you don't have any respect for anyone, well then when people give you constructive criticism or when you step out of line, you don't have anyone there to bring you back. And that leads you down a bad path in graffiti. That's when you start getting the ego, that's when you stop progressing, and once you stop progressing, you can almost guarantee that you're gonna stay a toy skill level wise for the rest of your life. But you see, a large part of this video, the skill level portion, is how you get out of being a toy. Once again, skill level wise. As far as the respect part, that's gonna be on you. That's gonna be completely on how you deal with other people and how you're able to talk to people and how you're able to show respect on the walls as well. That goes a long way, but once again, that's in your hands. But dudes, let me know your guys' experience being a toy in graffiti, especially if you're still a toy, if you're still starting out. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know how things are going for you and how you've experienced being a toy. How would you guys like to learn everything there is to know about not only the fundamentals of graffiti, but hand styles as well? I'm talking about information you have not seen anywhere online. Information that quite literally I have never heard anyone talk about. That's exactly what the next book in our series is going to go ahead and have, where we've been hard at work working on this book about the fundamentals of graffiti and hand styles. But this is where you guys come in, because as you know, if you bought my previous books, I like to make you guys a part of the actual process itself, featuring plenty of your guys' work in the book itself. So if you want your hand style to potentially be in the book, head over to the description and go to the submission page and you can link directly to your image by, you know, copy and pasting the URL of what you'd like to submit for the book right here in this section. Now on top of that, we're already writing the throwy, piecing, and style book as well. But I want to make sure that these are comprehensive guides. I want to make sure that these books cover all of the bases of graffiti, so by the end of the hand style, throwy, and piece book, you'll end up with a textbook worth of information all about the science of graffiti and how it functions. But these things take time, so as things progress, I'll keep you guys up to date. We've published these books so far, and you can pick them up if you want to. And if you want more graffiti content, the best how to do graffiti tutorials anywhere online, check out the top playlist with more down here. And I'll catch you guys back here next week. Thanks for watching.